Hi everyone, it's Christine here from Ever After Paper Crafts, and today I want to share with you several card samples of cards that I have made using the new August 2017 My Monthly Hero Kit from Hero Arts. And we're also going to be making one of these cards together on camera today. So here's the stack of cards that I have made, and I will go through them all at the end of the video. But first, I want to make a card like this. It's going to be very similar to this one here on top of the pile. I'm going to do a couple things a little different, but generally speaking, it's going to be this card. And I want to bring it up to the camera really quick and let you focus in on that beautiful background. That's the first thing that we are going to be doing, is making this gorgeous, shimmery, magical Starry Night Galaxy background. So we've got a lot of inking and stamping and embossing to do, so let's go ahead and get started. This is the stamp set that you get in the kit from Hero Arts. It's an amazing stamp set. You also, of course, get coordinating dies as well as one fancy die, which I have used on one of the cards, and I will go through that with you later. And you also get some gorgeous papers and some shimmer spray. I haven't even begun to touch the papers yet. You'll see when I go through all the cards later, they're all very similar style that I just kind of wanted to create as like a gift set for someone. But I cannot wait to go back and use the papers, and I also have a couple add-on stamp sets the Hero Arts has available and are still available that you could do similar techniques with. Now, I know that this kit is sold out, and I'm so sorry about that, but I'm hoping that you'll be able to take some of the techniques that we go over today and then use them with maybe some other stamp sets or some of the add-on sets from Hero Arts or something like that. So, okay, again, this is going to be a relatively long video, so we want to go ahead and get started. I'm going to put the cards aside here, and the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create our fun night sky background. I'm going to be using Distress Oxide ink to create my background, and I'm going to be using Seedless Preserves, Peacock Feathers, Salty Ocean, and Black Soot. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Salty Ocean, and I'm just going to apply my ink randomly to my cardstock. Now, I am using Canson XL watercolor paper, and I have cut it to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is a standard A2 size card front. And I wanted, because I knew I wanted the whole panel. If you look back at this card here, you can see the whole panel fills the entire front of an A2 size note card. So that's why I cut it to this size, but you could of course do it any size that you want. Now, the reason that I'm using watercolor paper instead of what I normally use, which is Bristol Smooth when I'm doing ink blending, the reason that I'm using the watercolor paper is because we are going to be layering a lot of inks. We're going to be using water-based shimmer sprays that came in the kit as well. So that's a lot of ink and water type substances going on top of each other. And I thought it would be a little bit more stable on watercolor cardstock, and it worked out great. So let's go ahead and get started with the inking. This is the Salty Ocean, and as you'll see, I am just putting it down. I'm not worried about it looking pretty and nice. I'm just putting it down on the cardstock in big glops, if you will. I'm not going to come in with my Seedless Preserves and just put a lot of that ink down. Make sure you put a lot of ink down, because we're going to go over a lot of this ink with Black Soot, and we want it to be able to shine through the Black Soot. So just make sure you have plenty of ink down. Go over it a couple times. And finally, we're now going to take our Peacock Feathers, and we're going to go in the middle here where there's no color and put a whole lot of green down with the Peacock Feather ink. Okay, so see, it looks like a mess. I haven't worried about blending it. I haven't worried about putting the color down in any particular technique or fashion. It's just on there, and that's all you need to do. Now I'm going to grab my Black Soot ink, and we're just going to go around the outside perimeter of the piece of cardstock. So I'm just going to put quite a bit down here on top of the ink we've already laid down and just around the perimeter. And as you can see, these oxide inks are so easy to work with. And you'll see when I start blending everything together in a moment just how easy these are to work with. They are a dream. I am so grateful that these inks exist. I really am. They're just fantastic. Okay, so we're going to be done with our Black Soot. Let me just remove that foam pad from my blending tool. And now comes the blending part. So I'm going to go back in with my Salty Ocean and just blend it with the Black Soot. And this is how you get everything to kind of look cohesive and nicely blended. So I'm just taking my blue here, which is the Salty Ocean, and going over blending it in with the black soot. I'm doing the same now with the seedless preserves. You can see here I'm just blending that in with the black, and now I'm going to do the same thing with the peacock feathers in the middle. And once it's all blended together, you're going to have a beautiful starry night sky look. I'm using kind of the side of my hand here because, and I'm getting it all inky. Please excuse my inky fingers and hands. That comes with the job, I suppose. But now you can see it looks really, really, really pretty, and you're getting that starry night sky look. Now we're not quite done yet. We're done with our inking though. We're going to do a few more steps to make this background really shimmer and shine and look even more like a galaxy. So let me just put these inks away super fast here so I don't make a mess. And then we'll move on to the final steps of our background. There we go. Okay, so now the kit, the Hero Arts kit came with, just getting some of this ink off my hands here as best I can, came with these two shimmer sprays. This one is it's a pearlescent shimmer spray, and it has a gold tint to it. And this one is a beautiful blue. So the first thing you want to do is shake these up really, really, really well, because they're liquid base, and the glittery bits, if you will, for lack of a better descriptive term, really kind of sit in the bottom once it's been sitting for a while, so you really need to shake them up good. Now, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the blue, I'm going to open this up first actually, so I have a kind of a background spray so it doesn't get all over my workstation. I'm going to take the blue first, and I'm just going to have this just slightly above my paper, and I'm just going to give it a couple sprays. There we go. Beautiful. Lovely. Got just a little bit on my workstation here, so let me clean that up quickly. And then we will move on. Let me get a cleaner wipe here. And we're just going to be spraying the gold tinted pearlescent paint, or pearlescent spray rather, right on top and a little bit to the side here. And I'll show you what I mean. So now we're going to shake this one up really well and just give it another spray. There we go. And that's it. Now we're going to let this sit for just a moment here as these work their magic. Now, because these are water-based, they're going to react to the oxide ink, and they're also going to react with each other. So if you see a lot of bubbling happening right now, that's the substance, the sprays, reacting to the oxide inks, as well as to the each spray is reacting with the other. So let it sit for just a few seconds here, and then I'm going to take a paper towel and just kind of blot it. Just give it a little bit of blot. And by doing this, you're just getting up a little bit of the excess and really allowing that color that's underneath that we created with our oxide inks to really shine through. So you just blot it up just a little bit, and now I'm going to remove our scratch paper here. We are done with it. And I'm going to pull this up to the camera so you can really see all that beautiful shimmer and shine. Isn't that absolutely gorgeous? It is so pretty, and it has, you can still see the purples and the blues and even the green in the middle from the Distress Oxide inks that we laid down in the first place. So I'm going to hit this with my heat gun really quick, and then we're just going to do one more step to really make this look like a galaxy background. So let me just heat this with my heat tool, and you could obviously let this air dry if you wanted to. For the sake of the video, I just kind of wanted to speed the process up a little bit, so I'm just hitting it with my heat tool super, super fast. All right, that's good. And so now I want to create some stars, some white stars. So to do that, I'm going to grab my Gansey Tambi watercolor paints, and I'm just going to use the white paint down here at the bottom left. It's number 10 in this set here. So I have a cup of water and a very small paintbrush off to the side here, and I'm going to get this white paint. It's very pigmented, so I want to get it nice and wet before I start putting it onto my paper. So you really want to go in a few times with water. You could even use a spray bottle and spray it with some water. That might help. Now I'm going to bring my scratch paper back over actually, because I just realized I don't want to get wet white paint all over my workstation here. All right, so we should be good to go. Once you see that paint start attaching to your brush, you've probably got it wet enough and you're probably good to go. So I'm just going to stick my finger out here and hit my brush against my finger to make the paint leave the brush and create little white stars all over our panel. So here we go. And you can see that white paint just dripping down and making little white stars on our panel. All right, and that looks good. You don't need a whole lot. You can put as many as you want. It just gives it a little extra galaxy background look to it, and I just really like that added touch. So let me bring it back up to the camera again so you can see it all nice and finished there. Isn't that lovely? And boy, those shimmer sprays sure are amazing. I'm hoping to really capture that shimmer and shine for you. If you look at it head on, you can still obviously see all those beautiful colors that we did on the base of our card with the distress oxidings. And then of course you have the blue shimmer and the gold shimmer spritz on top of that, and then our stars. And believe it or not, guys, you can stamp on top of this once it's completely dry, and that's what we're gonna do now. So I'm going to quickly clean my hands off here because I have ink everywhere and I don't want to contaminate the rest of our project. So I'm just grabbing a baby wipe really quick and getting as much ink off me as I can. And now I'm going to be bringing over my Misty. I find that that when doing silhouette images like those that come in this kit, sometimes you don't get the best image the first go around, simply because there's so much space to fill. And when you're working with Versamark ink, sometimes you might need to stamp it more than once. Now, because they're clear, you can do it without a stamping tool. This is not required. I just find it a little easier to use a stamping tool just to help me kind of with placement, and also so I can stamp it more than once if I need to. But the first thing I'm going to do, let me bring the original card back over, and again, I'm going to vary it up just a little bit from this design, so they're not all the same, because again, I'm giving these as a gift box, you know, a set of cards to someone. But we're going to create this fun little swoosh of stardust and stars, and then we'll have the little girl on top. So first we need to create that swoosh. So here is a panel, a background panel that I've already done, because the one I just did on camera wouldn't be dry enough yet for me to do on camera with you guys to stamp on it. So pretend that panel has dried, and here it is. But let me just bring this one up to the camera too, so you can see they all look a little different, which is so much fun. You're never gonna get two that look exactly the same. So anyway, this one I did a while ago before coming on camera, so it would be nice and dry. And I've already placed that swooshy stardust and star image exactly where I want it. Now, you're gonna hear this a lot throughout the rest of this video. You're going to want, when you're doing stamping and embossing on a panel such as this, with all of these layers of ink and shimmer sprays, you're going to want to use your anti-static powder tool. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this down right in here, because I know around here is where this image is going to go. I'm also going to be using my Versamark ink pad here. I'm going to ink up this stardust panel very well with the Versamark ink. And then I'm going to close the lid of my Misty and stamp it down right here on the panel. And I'm going to do that twice, simply because I want to make sure I get a very good impression. And because there is so much, oops, I'm throwing my Versamark pad around, sorry about that. Because there is so many layers of ink, I just want to make sure that this stamps down with a very good impression. So I've done that. Now I'm going to remove this stamp, get this out of my Misty, and we're gonna go ahead and use some gold embossing powder on the little swoosh here. So I'm gonna get my gold embossing powder out. This happens to be from Stampin' Up, but you can use any gold embossing powder that you want. Or if you wanna do something different, you can use any embossing powder that you have. I just chose to go with gold because there's that underlying, all that gold from the shimmer spritz, and I really wanted to kind of mirror that in some of the embossing that I did. So I've applied my gold embossing powder to the little swoosh, as you can see there. And now I'm going to warm up my heat gun. And we're gonna go ahead and heat set this beautiful gold embossing powder. And it'll really show up in a minute, just as soon as we get it heat set. Once you get that embossing powder melted, it really pops. And it's oh so pretty. And there you have it, guys. There is our beautiful gold embossed, I'm just gonna call it a swoosh of stardust and stars. It is so pretty, so pretty. So now we're gonna bring back our stamping tool, our stamp positioning tool. Again, you don't have to use one of these if you don't want to. It is absolutely not a requirement for a card like this. I just like to use it because it makes my life a little bit easier. And now I'm going to pull off from my stamps here this cute little girl image. She's gonna kind of be coming up off of this swoosh of stardust. And I'm also going to put these birds around her. I thought this would be cute as well. And I did that on the original card and I really loved it. So it's kind of like she's flying with all the birds. And I'm going to be embossing all of these in black. So that's why I feel it would be appropriate to just stamp them all together, save some time. And this is another reason why a stamp positioning tool is great, because you can do all of this in one swoop here. And I'll show you what I mean. So they're face down on the paper. We're going to close the door of our MISTI, which picks them all up. And now we're going to take our Versamark ink, and I'm going to ink these up really well. I'm going to do this twice again, just to make sure that I get a really, really good impression, particularly with this big silhouette image of this little girl. We just want to make sure that it is excellent impression, stamped impression when we're all done here. So I'm going to go ahead and push down really hard. All right, so now I'm going to lift this up. Clean off the stamp super quick. All right, close the MISTI. Now I'm going to be using some black embossing powder for these. I'm using Hero Arts embossing powder, and I'm just using a coffee filter to kind of catch the embossing powder as I pour it in. I just find that this works really well for me because I can then use the coffee filter to scoop everything right back up and right back into the bottle, so I don't waste any. There we go. Let's go ahead and tap off the excess very lightly on the back. Everything looks great. I'm going to set this aside, close up the bottle, because believe me, I have tipped that bottle over more than once. All right, now we're going to go ahead and heat set these black embossed images. We're going to melt this powder and it's going to be so beautiful. There you have it, guys. Look how pretty she is. I just think this is so beautiful. And also it gives it that shimmery shine to it as well. But it's like she's just floating above this beautiful swoosh of stardust, and then there's those pretty birds around her. It's like she's just taking flight over in the galaxy, in the heavens. I just love it. It's so pretty. Okay, so that's enough jibber jabber. We got a lot more work to do here, so let's go ahead and grab our MISTI tool again. I want to go ahead and do my sentiment now. And that's just so I get it in place. So then once I am ready to stamp some of the other extras around, I know I'll have my sentiment already down, so I won't kind of encroach on that space. So let me go ahead and quickly put all of these stamps back, and I'm going to use the MISTI again to simply stamp my sentiment. And we're going to heat emboss the sentiment with white. I really think that the white will help it stand out a bit amongst this kind of darker background with the black and the gold embossing as well. I think the white sentiment will really pop. There's so many gorgeous sentiments in this set that you get. I'm going to use the We're All Made of Stardust for this particular one because I just absolutely love that sentiment. I also love the book Stardust and the movie that they did. I don't know if you've ever seen it or not, but I just think it's adorable, a wonderful, wonderful movie. So I'm just kind of centering my sentiment there, kind of along the bottom. And I'm going to take my Versamark. First I want to grab my anti-static powder tool, get some powder on that spot. Now I'm going to take my Versamark, ink up the sentiment really well, and stamp it down. And I'm going to do that twice. I'm just kind of, as a matter of course, doing all of the inking and stamping down twice. Again, just because I have so many different layers of ink and shimmer sprays that I really don't want anything to get kind of, you know, not get the best impression that I can because of all that ink that kind of is on top of each other. Now I'm going to take some white embossing powder. This happens to be the ultra fine embossing powder from Simon Says Stamp. You can use whatever white embossing powder you happen to have in your stash. It'll all work great for this technique. And I just am simply going to tap off the excess very softly there, very gently on the back. And as you can see, there's the powder there. The sentiment is all heated up. I mean, all stuck to that Versamark. Now we're going to heat it up and melt that powder. So, whoops, I just noticed I didn't quite get the top of the L's and all. So let's go back and fix that really quick. Always double check your embossing powder, your image, before you heat it, because the tips, and it might not have even shown up on camera, but the tip of the L's in the word all actually didn't get powder on them, and I'm glad I caught that because it would look bad once we heated it up. And once you heat it up, it's very difficult to fix it. So double check that. I'm trying to go fast for the purposes of the video and almost missed that, but luckily I caught it. All right, so I'm just melting this white embossing powder so it just has this lovely shine, and it really makes that sentiment pop, and I just think it's lovely. So now you can see the sentiment as it pops up, and it says, "We're all made of stardust." Now I have a little bit of white embossing powder all over the place here, so I'm just taking a Swiffer dusting cloth, and these are magic. They just clean up my workspace so quick and painlessly. It's awesome. Okay, so now we want to add some finishing touches to our card. I think I'm going to do a moon in silver in the top right corner. I'm going to bring over my Misty one more time, I think, and then the rest I think I'm just going to freehand stamp. But we'll see here in just a moment. So I'm going to put my card back in the Misty here. And I like the idea of the moon kind of right here. And I'm going to be embossing this in silver, which I think will be really pretty. So I'm going to put that anti-static powder tool there, take my Versamark. And I'm so sorry I'm going so fast, guys. I just know this video is going to be super long, and I didn't want to bore you guys. I like to do my videos live with you guys, so it's like we're in a class together. So I don't really like to take out mistakes or anything like that. I like to kind of show you all of my steps, and if I make a mistake, I like to fix it on camera with you live, so to speak. So sometimes my videos get pretty long because of that, and I might have to change that, but that's how I'm doing them right now. But I don't want them to be too long that you guys are bored. So I'm trying to go as fast as I can, but still explain all the steps that I'm doing. So hopefully I am succeeding here. All right, so I'm just using some Stampin' Up! Silver embossing powder to get this to get this powder onto this moon image here. I'm just simply spooning it on, making sure all of the ink is covered with embossing powder, and then we'll go ahead and just tap the back lightly to get off any excess. And then we'll close our lid and go ahead and bring our heat tool back over and heat this up to melt the embossing powder. Isn't that pretty, guys? I just love embossing powders. They really do add so much, and especially when you have such an amazing backdrop image. I think my head may have gotten in the camera angle. I'm so sorry about that. But when you have such a beautiful background that you've laid down all that ink and spent so much time on that background, and then you can just add these embossing powders, and it really just makes everything pop all the more, and I just absolutely love it. So let's go ahead, and I think I am going to use my Misty one more time here. I want to put a little cloud in the middle of the moon. So let me grab that little cloud here. And then I think I will freehand stamp the rest. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, so let's grab this one more time. And now for the rest of it, we're going to be using, for this cloud anyway, we're going to be using some white embossing powder for this little cloud that's in the middle of the moon here. And then we'll put some clouds around the image, the card as well, that we'll also do in white in a moment. All right. Grab the little cloud with the door of your Misty, run your anti-static powder tool in there, and then get with your Versamark. Again, I'm going to do that twice just to make sure it's nice and inked up and we get a good impression. All right. Now we can go ahead and put the Misty aside, and I'm using that same white embossing powder from Simon Says Stamp. Just put a little bit on this little cloud here. All right, that should do it. And I think that's going to be really sweet. Close that up, and here we go. We're going to melt this white little cloud. Cute. All right, so now I think I'm going to take, there's several different cloud shapes in this set. I think I'm going to be using this one that's kind of open. I used that on another card in my samples, which I'll show you in a moment, and I really liked how it looked. So I'm going to grab that, And I'm going to try to be brave here and just freehand stamp it and not use my MISTI. So I'm not going to be stamping everything twice. But because it's just a line cloud image, it should be okay. So I'm going to put a little cloud up here. We're just going to put a few, just a few. Whoops, I forgot to use my anti-static powder tool. So because I don't know exactly where I'm going to put the clouds, I'm just going to kind of use this tool all over for now. And we should be okay. I missed that top corner, but hopefully we'll be all right there. Okay, I'm going to put one over here. You don't want too many. You don't want to busy it up too much. So I think I'm just going to put 3. All right, let's see how this looks. And you can always go back and add more, you know, if you want to. You're not committed to that, but I like to start small. And then if I find that I want more, I can always add them later, but you can't really take away, if that makes sense. So let's just add our embossing powder now. And there we go. Let me just get this cloud a little bit better. All right, and I'm getting embossing powder everywhere. There we go. Okay, so now we'll just put a lid on this. Grab my, oh my goodness, look at that mess. Grab my Swiffer dusting cloth. Try to get all this up here really quick. All right. And now we'll go ahead and heat set these clouds. Okay, and now for the very last step, and we're just going to do some starbursts with some gold embossing powder. And I'm going to be using this really pretty burst of stars right here. It kind of goes with the swoosh of starbursts and stars. So I'm just going to freehand stamp these. Again, I'm not going to pull out the MISTI for this because I think that it's going to be all right to just simply do these freehand. And like I said, we'll be embossing these in gold. And we don't need a whole bunch. I'm going to put one here. I'm going to put one here, kind of going this way. And then I'm going to put one going the opposite direction here. So I've only got 3. And that's on purpose because, again, I don't want to completely cover up this beautiful background that we've created. We want some of these fun elements on it, but we don't want to completely go crazy and have the entire background covered up with stamps and embossing powder. So I think by just doing a few here and there, we're still, you know, having the fun elements on our card, but we're keeping our background still visible as well. Oops, I didn't put one up there. Forgetting where I put them now. There we go. One there, one down here, and then one is over here. All right. Whoops, I didn't get this one all the way. Let me just go back in here and get that one a little bit better. And I did forget to use my anti-powder static tool. You want to make sure you use that with every step. I forgot. But try to always remember, you'll get much better embossed results if you do it. And you won't have to fiddle around with your fingers to get embossing powder where it's not supposed to be, if that makes sense. So now I'm just melting this gold embossing powder. All right, and that's it, guys. That's our card. All I would do to finish it off is just add some sequins, some of my silver sequins around, and of course put some foam tape on the back and put it on a standard A2 size card. So that's it. Let me bring this up to the camera so you can see what we've created. And I know this video is kind of long, but it really didn't take that long to create this card, and look at the results. I mean, if I received a card like this, I would be thrilled, and I'm sure anyone would, and it was so easy to create. So I encourage you to give this a try. And you can really use, if you weren't able to get the kit, you can really use all different kinds of stamps. There's lots of little critter stamps out there that are stargazing bears and rabbits. Different stamp companies have all different kinds of little images that you could use this technique, this background technique on. Let me quickly show you the other cards that I made from this kit. Here's a card very similar to this one, except oops, I'm sorry, I'm out of frame, except I did the clouds in gold as well. I wanted to do a little something different with this one, put a little bit more white on this particular one that I made on camera. But here's one with gold, and this gold embossing powder is the Wow glitter gold embossing powder, so it's even shinier, as you can see there. I went a little crazy with the shine on this one. And then of course I have my silver sequins on here as well. And again, all of these are just on A2 size cards. Here's one that I did with the little boy sitting on the moon fishing, and he's got a little star that I stamped on vellum here. This one I actually painted with watercolor paint, my Gansai Tanvi watercolor paints. I wasn't sure if I'd get good stamping impressions with the watercolor paint, and I did, and I just think it's absolutely beautiful. I put 2 swooshes on each corner, and then I have my little guy embossed in black. I embossed the star on my vellum and attached that with a dimensional. I have some silver I can't think of the word, sequins, there we go, and life is but a dream is the sentiment, and I just love that card. Here's another one that I made. The sentiment says we're all made of stardust. Again, I really love that sentiment. I cut out 3 clouds using the coordinating cloud die on vellum and kind of glued them to the bottom of the card to have my little girl standing on top of them. She's embossed in black, and she has a little star and a moon balloon. And then we have, this is the Stampin' Up! Gold embossing powder like we used on camera today. We have got the 2 swooshes, and then this star is done with white embossing powder, and then we have some gold stars sprinkled throughout. So I really love this one. The backgrounds of these, except this one which is painted and one more which is painted, all of the other backgrounds were all done with the same technique I showed you on camera. This is the other one that I mentioned that is painted, and this painting was done with all pearlescent paints. And it says, love you more than all the stars on the sentiment. And here's the little girl again, and she's got 3 star balloons, if you will. And then we've got some of those beautiful stars like we used on the card we did on camera, kind of all throughout. And then we've got this swoosh that she's standing on, holding her balloon. And then I love that pearlescent paint. I didn't use any sprays on the 2 that I painted because I just wasn't quite sure how that would look. So you could certainly try it. And then finally, the last card sample that I have for you today is a shaker card. I cut out the little girl and the swoosh from the coordinating dies, just kind of glued them on here. This is the fancy die I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and I just created a fun shaker card out of it. I also painted this background, and it says, the sentiment again says, we're all made of stardust. I have some of those clouds on vellum, and I also have some sequins, and then of course all the sequins inside that make the shaker card. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for hanging in there in this super long video. I really appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed these cards and the process to make the cards. So much fun, and I just love this kit. So I hope that you enjoyed this, and thank you so much again for stopping by, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.